Hello, Lizzie here. Today we're going to make Francesca, and Francesca is part of the February 2023 collection. We've got Fantasia, which is the cushions behind me, and we've got Francesca, which is this gorgeous bag. Now both projects, Fantasia and Francesca, have been made from one pretty charm pack and one plain charm pack, so you've got the difference of the fabrics. I've gone for an Anna Maria Horner charm pack, which is called Welcome Home. It's not a new one. I think it's been around about a year from now, so if you get to see this in a year or two's time, you might not be able to get it, but all of her fabrics are absolutely beautiful. So anything you make using any of these top class designers will result in something that looks like this. Now this is a really super easy bag. It's something I've wanted to make for ages, with just the side ties here. So we've got can you see the side there? And it does lie flat, so you can fold it up and pop it into another bag, take it with you wherever you go, but it has the advantage of having the handles to the side. Now because this is got the wadding in, we're using H640, you need to actually manipulate it yourself to draw it up, although I think if you put heavy weight stuff in there it'll draw it up naturally, and it's really lovely, and it's a really super easy make. Now in the pattern I have used oval grommets. Now prior to using oval grommets, I hadn't used them before, and I thought what a lovely project we can use them for making Francesca. And I had to buy a toolkit that went along with the grommets, and it became really expensive. I'm serious, really expensive. In my Amazon shop, and I'll put the link in the description below, in my Amazon shop I have put the toolkit in there and the grommets, but they could set you back probably close to £55, £60, which is a lot of money if you're just going to try to make one. If you think the oval grommets are for you, for other projects, maybe you want to make multiple of these would look great on a craft stall, can I just tell you, because they are so beautiful. I fancy having half a dozen of these hanging up, so maybe you want to make a few, and maybe you think the oval grommets are for you, so I give you that option, and that's what I've done in the pattern. However, in this demonstration I'm just going to use my sewing machine, and we're going to do buttonholes. Now the buttonholes are going to be quite big, so get the biggest button that you can find, about an inch and a half, perhaps a little bit less, but not much less than that, because our webbing is 1 inch wide, so you've got to bear that in mind, and you've got to have a little bit of a gap for that to be able to move, otherwise it'll be too tight. Anyway, I think we need to do a lovely bright lining. As you can see, I've got a lovely bright lining there. Oh, you might hear Millie, she's up with me today filming. She's a star. I've made her a little bed, but she's abandoned it. So there we are. So that is Francesca. I love how she looks. She's going to be so useful when you're out and about and you need to get a few bits and bobs. I mean, it's really strong, so it's going to be able to take those cartons of milk or bottles of wine or whatever it is, whatever your fancy. It'll take the weight, and that's what I like about it. Plus it's beautiful. I really love it. It's the colours, isn't it? They zing, and obviously I'm wearing zingy colours especially for Francesca. So we're going to put her behind me so we can see her from time to time, and we're going to start making. Like I said before, it's a really easy make. Nothing for you to worry about at all. A little bit of patchworking going on, but again, really super easy. You will need a charm pack, as I said, of colours, a charm pack of plains. You could make a couple of the bags, or you could make a cushion, or actually you can make both, but a couple of cushions. You'll need some wadding, some lining. You'll need the grommets if that's the way you go for, or we're going to do buttonholes today, and you'll need 1 inch webbing, and pretty much that's it. So to make all of our fabulous patchwork half square triangle squares, you'll need a certain amount. Now everything is in the pattern. You don't have to guess as to how many you need or what size or anything like that. Everything is in the pattern for you to look at. So, and the pattern is linked below. So what we need, if we look at the overhead, what we need are two, obviously, pieces from our charm packs. This is a commercially made charm pack, so it has the zigzagged edges, the pinked edges. This is a pre-cut from my local craft store. They cut their own 5-inch squares, and these are the ones that are accurate. Funnily enough, these are the ones that have a little bit of leeway. And I always say with these commercially made charm packs is that if you go on the inside of your pinked edge, that will be your 5 inches. The outside zigzag part, that gives you a little bit more. So if I was to lay this on top, I'll try and get this the right way round, you'll see that it doesn't quite fit, but that's exactly how it's meant to be. So just to make your fabulous half square triangles, all we're going to do is the usual thing, and you'll have seen this before. I'll just find a ruler. I just realised I've tied it away and I haven't got my rulers out. And we're just going to draw from point to point. Now you can see my ruler doesn't quite fit, but we can extend it, or you can just use your eye like that. So we just need to draw across, and I also suggest strongly that you pin this together just there. Then you can lay your ruler here and draw. If you're left-handed, then you're going to pin there, have your ruler there, and you're going to eventually you're going to cut there, but you're going to draw there. So what we're going to do is we're going to stitch down each side of that line 1/4 inch, and I must admit you probably have seen this a load of times on how to do this half square triangle method. It's nice and easy because it means you're not working with bias. If you were to cut out the triangles, and obviously you can do that if you want to, you're dealing with bias, which immediately could lead you into trouble. or not. Depends how skilled you are. But it's much easier to do this method, basically. So we're just stitching along, or following the line, but we're following it 1/4 inch away. So all the way along there. And then we're just going to turn our fabric round and come down the other side. So this is probably as difficult as it's ever going to get, but it's such a lovely pattern, even though I say so myself. It's one that you'll probably want to make lots of. So there is our half square triangle square, if you like. And we're just going to cut along that line. Now you could cut with the rotary cutter and ruler if you want to, remove your pin first, or you can cut with your scissors, and quite honestly I think scissors are perfectly fine. So it's quite nice to get your scissors out, especially if you've got gorgeous scissors like me. I have all the Karen K Buckley scissors. They are super. Right, so I'm just cutting these in half, and I'm going to get my little pressing mat, so let's get that in, and I'm going to switch my iron on. So we're all good to go. Now obviously if you want to, you can open your seams. It's very trendy at the minute to open seams, or what you can do is just press over as you regularly would. But if you want to press everything to the dark side, then what you're going to do is start with your fabric dark side up, and then we're going to flip them over. So I'll just take that one out of the way for the moment. Set your seam, because that pushes the stitches into your fabric, and by doing that you actually get a crisper fold when you push that over. So just get your iron in there, start from the middle, work out. You shouldn't need to pull or push this at all. It should all go out beautifully, and that's your first half square triangle. Again, dark side up, give it a little press there to set your seam. So you're setting your stitches rather than your seam, and then you're just pushing out with your iron, and you shouldn't need to touch it, to be perfectly honest, because you've set your seam. You should get the perfect crease down there. So there we are, there's our pieces done, and you can see with just that square of fabric what a difference our half square triangles are. They really are super. Okay, so in the pattern it tells you exactly how many you need to make, And the next thing I suppose we're going to do is to actually take the whole lot, so your whole heap of half square triangles. I've probably got a little bit too many here now, and we're going to arrange them so none of them are touching, so you don't want anything next to each other diagonally or going on the straight. You want them to be equally distributed, okay? But what you are going to do is you're going to start laying them out. So if I start laying them out like this, and also what you'll do is you'll have, for instance, you could put them all that way. When we fold the bag in half, they will actually change direction, which sounds a bit weird, but you'll see as we go along. So if you get a duplicate, just move on, and you'll want 4 along the top, and then go to the pattern and see how many you need to make up your entire long piece. So the thing to do, like I said, is to lay them out on the floor. Maybe you've got a design wall, how splendid if you've got the room. Maybe on the top of a bed, table, anywhere where you can see them all, so you can mix up those colours and you don't get any sitting next to each other. If when you stitch them together you suddenly realise as you're putting the rows together, you can always mix your rows up. I find that to be another great way of mixing your pieces. So what we're going to do is now stitch these together. So if the first thing you're going to do is make a row of 4, and this is going across, and obviously you're going to repeat that. So you're going to look at the pattern, see how many you've got to make. Oh, I love this one. And if there is a favourite like that one, put it so it's going to be, so you'll be able to see it. I mean, you will see everything, but maybe you won't see the bottom ones as much as the top ones. That's just my theory anyway. So start laying them all out. So the next thing we will do is make up a row, make up a second row, and so on and so forth until you've got all the rows you need. Like I say, in the pattern it tells you exactly how many rows you need and how many of the charm packs to cut. And then we're going to put our warding on. So let's go ahead and get some of these done. So I'll do the first row, and it's very, very easy. There are no points to match. There's nothing to match at the moment. So let's just bring the machine in. So all we're going to do is place them right sides together, so you can see on the side there, right sides together, so all our coloured half square triangles are all going in the same direction. And it doesn't matter how you do that. You can put that upside down if you want to. You can have it like that. You can have it like this. This is your bag. You can design it however way you wish, but I'll stick to that. Then I'll stick to it throughout. So on the bottom left we have our coloured, top right we have our plain. I think that's probably the best way to look at it. So right sides together, we're going to stick with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Oh, and don't forget, and I meant to say before I get going on this, we need to trim these up. So if we quickly go to the overhead again, whoops, I'm sorry guys, I forgot about that bit, is that you need to get your ruler. So I've got my ruler here, and my rotary cutter it's all buried underneath my stuff. And yes, so sorry, I do apologise. You do need to square these up, and to square them up you need to, if you look on the overhead here, you need your ruler. This ruler is cut exactly to the right size, which is lovely. And obviously if you look at the pattern you'll see what size we need. You might be able to see on the overhead there. And what you need is that 45-degree line that's printed on the ruler to sit on your seam. So theoretically you can't see it. If I bring it up, maybe I'll do it like that, you can see that line. So we're just popping it over the top, and you just want to make sure that you've covered all of your square. So if we can just cut around it. Now you're going to be cutting quite a lot, so what I suggest you do is use your rotating cutting mat if you've got one, because you'll end up doing just what I've just done, which is moving the whole lot. and that can be awkward. So a rotating cutting mat is really useful. Let's just do our best. It's not worth bringing it up just for one, but you'll have to keep repositioning it if you're doing what I'm doing. Make sure it's all lovely and squared up. And if you don't square off your little block there, interestingly, you may not think this is interesting, but interestingly, I kept all the scraps from cutting them all, and that's the scraps. So imagine all of that in your seam allowances and think how inaccurate your seams and your sizes will be if you didn't cut that off, all of those little blocks that you've made. So I just thought that would be a great example to show you of why we square up, even though it looks like, oh, it's only a little bit, it won't matter. Actually, it does actually matter quite a bit over a bigger area. So back to what we were doing. So 1/4 inch seam allowance, we're going to do the first 2 squares. Now, of course, you could chain piece if you want to. I must admit, I am of the sort of persuasion, if you like, that I do little bits at a time. I check and make sure that everything is going my way, that I've got everything in the right place, and then I will join up. I very rarely chain piece. I very rarely do. Just personal preference. You do you, I'll do me. Yes, it's probably quicker. Yes, you probably save thread. There's probably a gazillion reasons why chain piecing is great. It's just that I don't like it. I like to be slow and steady. So now we've got 3 pieces attached. So I'm going to attach my last piece now. And what you'll do is you'll make up all of these rows. Like I say, in the pattern it tells you how many. And you're going to press your seams in opposite directions on each row. So one row you're going to press your seams that way, the second row down they're going to go that way, the third row that way, and so on and so forth until you've pressed them all and you're ready to join the rows together. So there's my first row. It already looks gorgeous, doesn't it? So there's my first row. So I shall carry on. I'll make all the rows up and then I'll show you what they look like before we stitch them together. So I've made all the rows that I need to make my bag front, and now it's a case of joining the rows together. So if we look on the overhead, these are all my lovely rows, and lovely and pressed, and they look so scrumptious. So if I take these first layers off, these would be my first 2 rows. You need 4 rows for the front and 4 rows for the back. Now I'm going to just make one continuous piece of fabric. You could think about turning your half square triangles so each side of the bag is the same. If we look at the one that I made, you'll see that one side, our triangles, our coloured triangles if you like, are going on the upper side of the square. Because I've used one continuous fabric, on the other side the triangles are going on the lower part of the square. Now I quite like that, but you might want it that all your triangles are going on the lower side or the upper side, but I quite like that difference, that look. So I'll leave that for you to decide. You'll need to work out how to turn them when you put them together as one big piece of fabric, because we still need to do that. So let's just pop that back in the back again. So all you're going to do then is just line these up and join each row. All you've got to be careful of is that you've got points here that ideally you should be matching up with the previous line. If you use your 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitch all the way across, you'll be fine. But what you could do, and is what we did in Fantasia, is that you could use quilter's tape to actually make sure that at least these pieces are lined up and our lines are correct like this, rather than worrying too much about the points that are going on. For instance, you don't want it to be kinked over, if you like, to one particular side, so you want to get at least your seam lines lined up, and then that will look absolutely gorgeous. This is not quilted in any way, so you're not going to be be hiding anything. Everything is going to be out on show, if you like. But quite honestly, by the time the whole bag is put together, it'll look glorious, whatever happens. So we're just going to go ahead and stitch the rows. So I'll do the first row, and then I'll carry on and do the rest. And of course, this is the moment when you can look at your rows, make sure you haven't duplicated anything too much, and then you can adjust, you can move your rows about. Now I'm just going to kind of go for it. If you've pressed your seams one way and then the opposite way on each row, they should nest beautifully. And of course you can pin, you can use quilter's tape, you can use clips, although I find clips a little bit heavy on just single layer fabrics. But just line up and nest each section. Now you might want to use a little pokey tool here, so I can hold my pokey tool there and make sure that it all sits beautifully. Move obviously the tool away, that it's actually a stiletto, before you get to it. You don't want to interfering with your needle. And then go to the next section where it should be nested, get it lined up, get it to fit. Whatever happens between there and there will be. So in other words, you're either going to slightly adjust, either by pulling a layer or letting a layer become a little bit more. So you're going to adjust it, you're going to adjust it to fit. As long as this part is correct and that part is correct, this will go in, and we're talking a millimetre or two. So you can see I'm just holding my fabric until I get to that point, and then I remove my stiletto. Obviously we don't want to machine over that. And then again we just line up. I get my stiletto in there because of course the point goes right into the fabric, so it's absolutely super. Holds it all in place. I'm adjusting just automatically what's happening between my two seam pieces there. It just fits, and you really shouldn't be out by a huge amount. And then I'm just making sure that this corner here is absolutely perfect. And we just do our 1/4 inch all the way, oops, all the way along. Fell down the hole of my machine. There we go. So that's our first row done. And then we end up with, let's do it this way round, we end up with something that looks like that, which is just absolutely gorgeous. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to carry on and stitch all my rows together. I'll put the wadding on so you can see what that looks like, and then we can start making the bag up dead easy. So I have completed all the rows of my piece, and this is what it looks like now. The next thing to do is to do the buttonholes or put the grommets in. Now I'm not going to show you how to put the grommets in today, but I can do a little tutorial another time. It's a very simple tool to use. So you need a hammer and you need the tools that come with the grommets. Well, they don't come with the grommets, but they are made to go with the grommets, and I'll put that in my Amazon shop. So if you're interested, go to the Amazon shop and have a little search around and find those tools and the grommets. So they are very easy. I would say if you've got a little bit of dexterity problems, get a friend or the other half or somebody to do the hammering, and you need a solid table or perhaps a concrete floor, something solid. But they're easy peasy to put in. They're just, I found, a little expensive. So if we go on the overhead, we can see now that we're going to put a buttonhole on each outside corner. So this is, I'm going to call this is the corner here, and this is the corner here, and we're going to put a buttonhole in each of these. Now what you need to do is to measure in, and it says all this in the pattern. So I will measure in from this internal corner here, because that's where all the stitching has been done. So let me just put my ruler down. There we go. And I'm going to find, oh, let's just do that properly. Let's find the centre. So basically it's a 2-inch square you've got there, and I'm going to find the centre. Obviously that's going to sit on that seam, but that's not where, but the buttonhole's not going to go like that. The buttonhole is going to go kind of vertically along your piece. So this is the length of the piece we're looking at here. So what I want you to do is to measure from that dot that you've just made, well, I would say 3/4 of an inch either side. So the whole thing is 1.5, and you just want to make sure that that's kind of your guide. So we're not. You could do a manual buttonhole. If you're part of my online sewing group, you'll have seen me work an online a manual buttonhole. So you don't have to have a gadget. You can do it with your zigzag of your machine. But basically, from that dot that you've just made, mark out 3/4 of an inch. And that will be your starting point for doing your buttonhole. So we do the same again for this other corner. So let's just get the ruler in place, mark our dot, measure out 3/4 of an inch. That's our starting point there. And you can put another 3/4 of an inch in if you want to, but if you set your machine up properly with a big button, then it's going to fit. So 3/4 of an inch either side. So looking at the other corners now, let's just measure in again. Of course, you've got the darker fabrics, so you might want to use a chalk pen and measure out 3/4 of an inch. I can see that, you probably can't. And then 3/4 of an inch again, and that's where we'll finish. And obviously be careful with what marker you're using. And then the last one, don't forget we're going down our work, not across. Okay, not across, we're going down. Otherwise it just won't work. So mark our point, mark our 3/4 of an inch. So I can see that, like I said, I don't think you'll be able to very well anyway. And that's your stop point. So your actual buttonhole is 1.5 inches in length, the whole thing, okay? So let's do all 4 buttonholes. Very, very easy. If you've got an attachment on your machine, you know, a buttonhole foot, mine is a bit space agey looking, then obviously plug it in. It's super easy. The machines are set up to do an automatic buttonhole for you. It's just the length of the buttonhole that you want to get right, and that starting position. Okay, so you see I've got the biggest button I could find, and actually that buttonhole is that the attachment, the foot, is at its widest point anyway, so I couldn't go any bigger. So all I have to do is plug mine in, which sounds really trendy, but you know, it talks to the machine. It's very super clever, but a regular buttonhole foot is perfectly fine. Oh dear. So I'll just get that connected. So now I'm going to put my machine on a buttonhole stitch. It's the first one that I've got. There's other fancy ones you can use. You choose. Have a ball. Have a practice first. Before you go on to your project, have a practice. So all I'm going to do is, if we look at the side, I'm going to slip this under my machine. My feed dogs grab my wadding like crazy. I could raise my foot, but I did think I had, but it's still very tight to get on. What I'm trying to do now, let me just move all my bits away from the microphone, is to find that bottom line that I drew. So I've done my vertical, but it's that little bottom line that I've drawn, and that's where I'm going to start, and I want to make sure that the vertical line that I've drawn is right in the center of the little space that you get where the buttonhole in the buttonhole foot, you get a little, like a letterbox. You want that line to go right down the middle. Now obviously if your fabric is dark like mine, you might struggle, so use a white chalk pen. Pop your foot down, make sure everything is straight, so your fabric is straight. You can see it's lovely and parallel here on my machine. Let's just shift it a little bit, and then it'll stitch straight. If it stitches a bit wonky, I won't worry, because the ties will disguise all of that. So let's go. I always think it's quite magical watching the machine make a buttonhole, because if you're worried or anxious in any way, you don't need to be, because the machine is doing everything for you, assuming you've got an automatic buttonhole foot set up on your machine. And I never go super fast. I always think, oh gosh, this is complicated for my machine, so I just need to take my time. I'm sure my machine can cope perfectly well. So now it's coming up the other side. Spar tacking across. I'm not doing anything. And then it's going down the other side. And this buttonhole is the largest one I can do, because the button I've got in the foot. So it might be just a wee bit short of my 1.5 inches, but that's fine. It's fine. Lovely. And then it's done. As easy as that. So let's just break the threads. Let's just put the machine down. That's it, break the threads. Okay, and there we are. That's our buttonhole done. So I will put my iron on that to get rid of my pen mark. Otherwise it can look a little bit confusing when you've got marks on there. And I'll show you how to cut a buttonhole. Now you might think, well, I don't need you to show me how to cut a buttonhole. But maybe you do. And I have a certain way that's foolproof. So let me just take my blue marks off. That's it, that's better. As like I say, it can confuse. I'll just chop the end off there. Okay, so you can see now on the overhead, there's my buttonhole made, which is looking absolutely gorgeous. Get your seam unpicker, your seam ripper, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to put the point in, and we're going to go from the bar tacked edge here just to the middle, or that way, go a little bit further if you want, and then we'll turn our work around and we'll go from there in. So this is how I've always done it. Just be careful because it's super sharp, so follow the little gap that you've got, your machine has created, and you've got so far, and then turn it around, pop your seam ripper in again and meet what you've just done, and there we are. Lots of people put pins in here, do all sorts of tricks and tips on how to cut a buttonhole, but that is actually the best way, because you're protecting. You know exactly where you're starting, you're in control, and it doesn't matter what size buttonhole you do, this is the best, in my opinion, this is the best way of doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other 3, and then I'll come back to you. So I have completed all 4 buttonholes now, and I forgot to tell you that I did put the wadding on the back of my piece. So each top and bottom now has a vertical buttonhole ready for putting the webbing through. So the next bit, super easy. Get your lining fabric, which I've chosen really bright and zingy, right sides together, and you're going to stitch the short ends of the outer and lining fabric together. So if we do right sides together, okay, all the measurements are in the pattern, but just go by the size of your outer and go from there. So if you look on the front camera now, we've got the lining fabric here, gorgeous, and we've got the outer fabric here, just notice a little bit there, and we're putting them right sides together, and we're sewing down the short ends, so both short ends where the buttonholes are. So we just need to remove our buttonhole foot, unplug. Just shows how easy these things are. Sometimes I think we get a little scared of stuff and can't see there's no need. So let's go back to our regular stitch again. There we go. Smashing. like everything, it all needs setting up. So we're going to join our short ends. So we're going to do about a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way along. Little back stitch there. Oops, I must get that silicone out. I can make one. Right. Once we've stitched these short ends, we'll take it to the iron, or I'll take it to the iron, give it a good press. Set that seam again like we did before. You can see what a difference it makes. And if you need to trim your fabrics, then this is a good time to trim them. Make sure everything sits nicely together. So we haven't stitched anything other than the 2 short ends. And to save you going back over the video, just refer to your pattern, because that is, as usual, lots of pictures and details of what you need to do next at each stage. So, there we go. Little back stitch. Okay. So I've stitched both short ends. So we've now got a kind of tube. So I'm going to go away and press that, and we'll come back and then we'll stitch the whole bag together. So I've pressed my piece, so that's what it looks like now, back and front. There we go, there's my lining, gorgeous. Before we stitch together, we need to mark out where we're going to stitch for our channel. We need a channel for our webbing to go in, otherwise it's going to slip and slide all over the place. So just, as I say, if you've pressed it well, then you should have a really, really nice straight edge along here. And this is the top, this is where your buttonholes are. So I want you to get a ruler and a heat erasable pen. Now if you've used grommets, you want to go just slightly away from the metal of the grommets, but for me I'm going just a wee bit beyond the ends of my buttonholes, and I'm going to draw a lovely straight line. Now my ruler isn't quite long enough, so I'll just add on to that both ends. So this is my buttonhole here, and that's where my ruler mark is, as you can see. So we're going to do the same again. Now I'm not necessarily measuring it, I'm just doing this by eye, but if I do it both ends of the buttonhole, then I know that I'm kind of squared up. Again, if you've got dark fabrics, you might want to use a chalk pen, but seriously, you'll probably be able to see this perfectly fine. And then we want to do the same on the other side, because we end up stitching through all the layers once the bag is put together. So we've got our channel. So again, we're just going above the buttonholes. Just make that dark. You want to test your fabric with friction pens before you draw on them, because I know certainly with batiks they will show a ghost line, whether they've been ironed off or not. They will show a ghost line. I don't know why that does that on batiks. Maybe it's the quality of the fabrics, I'm not sure, but yeah. So just test them to make sure that you don't get a ghost line. I mean, you'll end up stitching on these lines anyway, so horses for courses. Okay. So now we're going to ignore the fact that we've just drawn on there. Just don't iron it again. So we're going to do right sides together. So turn your tube through. And you're just going to pop our seams together. So the short seams we've just stitched, you're literally going to find the center, or find both sides, you're going to join together. Let me just pop a pin in there. So you're going to join, so both seams sitting on top of each other. Didn't explain that very well. Match up your seams. And you can nest them if you want, if you find that easier. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference. It's easier to nest because your machine copes better, any machine. And then pin all the way along You can use clips if you want on the part with the wadding, because it'll take clips now because it's a little bit heavier. I'll just pop these together. Basically, you want a seam line of your patches to be on the seam line of the front outer piece. So we're going to stitch down both long sides, and on one side, on the lining, we're going to leave a turning gap of a good 6 inches. So let's do that. So I shall start at the bottom just to make sure that the seam is sitting right on that bottom edge. 1/4 inch thereabouts. Won't matter now, not so much. Now you could match your triangles so your points match, but at this stage I think, gosh, I've done enough matching. I'm just going to stitch it, and I'm just very grateful then that I've got to the end of my project and it looks gorgeous because of the fabrics we've chosen. So go out of your comfort zone a little bit with your fabrics. Trust me on that one. So just coming up to that centre seam line. Try and get them to match and nest if you can. I'll put my turning gap in this side so I don't forget. So, and do a back stitch, because as we turn through it kind of puts pressure on that end of your stitching. So just move your fabric along. Down to the bottom and back stitch again. We're not boxing the corners. The figure of the bag is quite a, it's not massive, so you don't want to lose, in my opinion, you don't want to lose any more of the fabric, and why would you want to cut your lovely patchwork off? But of course you can do. You can box. I wouldn't want to lose the patchwork, that's the best bit. So just match up your raw edges. And then we're actually almost done. I think you'll enjoy this project. It is a nice easy one. Sometimes we have quite complicated patterns, which is fine. Sometimes we don't want that, do we? Don't forget, when you're stitching through all the wadding, you might want to lengthen your stitch to about 2.8. Your machine will like you for it. Okay. You can cut those corners off if you want to, but I don't. I like the security of having that extra fabric there rather than weakening that corner. Okay, so now we can turn it through. So find your turning gap and just bring it through. And all of a sudden you get this explosion of colour. And that's just what we need, don't we, if we're in the winter months, wherever we live. Sometimes. Yeah, just need a little bit of sunshine. Even winter sunshine can be nice, can't it? So just push your finger into the corners, don't go crazy. Oh, it's just glorious. And obviously we don't need to poke that up, but we need to push it back in. This is the lining, so push it back in. Now we're going to stitch that channel now, so you do really want this to be pushed in the correct place. And because if you iron that seam as I suggested before, so when you've stitched those short edges together, if you've ironed that really well, it should really, it has kind of an iron memory. They call it muscle memory, don't they, if you do exercises? But this is kind of like an iron memory. And you want to now really try to sort of straighten this up. So when you have it flat on your desk like that, if you look at mine, you want it so you've got equal distance going all the way along here to your channel. I mean, that isn't quite right. It needs a little bit of a play. Now, if you've used heat erasable pen, you can't iron that again, but you can pin it to hold it in place. So all your layers are sitting beautifully. So just roll that seam out, give it a little pin. Again, just pin. And you could then pin through all of the layers. So for instance, I'll get my big pin in there just to hold that. So all the layers, because we're going to stitch the lining as well. Now, even though our lines here, I want you to see this, they're not lined up. I want you to give yourself a little bit of artistic license and just go across there. And like I say, pin it so it's sitting nicely. You might want to pin it here just so it's sitting straight. You'll find a way yourself, perhaps, of keeping this all beautifully flat and neat. We don't want the lining to be ruckled up as best we can anyway. And it actually helps just taking 5 minutes to do this. Preparation is key. So coming round to here again, just flatten it all out. Pop a pin in to hold. It's the top, because if we get this a little bit wonky, you'll perhaps notice that, and just keep that lining straight. And then if you want to, you could pin it here as well, just to hold it in place. So now we're going to put it under the machine. Just make sure everything is sitting flat. I'm putting my hands in there to push the lining away. There's no pins inside for me to hurt myself. And then we're just going to stitch that channel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my free arm off my machine and pop it in, and I'm going to stitch on the right side because that's more important to me. I'm going to start stitching on a seam. Let's bring this in a bit more. And off we go. And just as you bring it round, you'll feel if the lining has wriggled. You just want to keep it flat. A good steam would be so beneficial. Now you'll notice I'm keeping the pins in, but I'm making sure that the pin tips are nowhere near my needle. So I'll try and keep that flat so you can see. So where we come up to the lines where they're a little bit out, I'm just going to eyeball it and make it straight for me. When it's all gathered up and you've got your shopping in from the latest craft fair or fabric event, you won't mind what it looks like. And I tell you what, I bet people will say to you, oh, love your bag, where did you buy that? I want one. So I'm keeping my pins in because they're doing a crucial job. Keeping the points away from my machine, my needle. Okay, that's me back to the beginning. So now we're just going to hop over to the other side and start stitching again. So this is the bottom channel now. So again, I've got my hand under here to make sure my lining is staying flat as best I can. You could actually use your quilting guide for this instead of drawing your lines. If you've never used your quilting guide before, have a look in your manual and you might find that does just the job for you. Let's take that pin out. Wants to escape. So keeping everything flat. Those colours just riotous, aren't they? So you might find some kaif. You might have some fat quarters that you can cut up. You might have some Tula Pink, favourite. Let's just put my yarn back on. Okay, so I've stitched my channels, which is lovely. So now all we need to do is to thread our webbing through. So let me just take all the pins out and I'll show you on the front. And of course a good press now is almost essential because we've got the drawn lines if you used a heat erasable. Just trim my threads. We need to get rid of those blue lines. It does confuse the eye. So let's have a look now. There we go. So if you remember from earlier on, one side my triangles are on the top, the other side my triangles on the bottom. And if you did front and back separate, then join them so you've got them going both the same way, that's up to you, but I just wanted that juxtaposition, if you like. So I'm going to go and give this a really good press, then I'm going to show you how to put the webbing in and sewing it up. So I've given it a good press, looks tons better now. You may not notice a jot of difference, but I do. And of course we've opened up our buttonholes, so we know they're good to go. So now we need to cut our piece of webbing. In the pattern I tell you how much to cut, but you can cut a length and then trim it back. It doesn't make any difference really. Right, so I've got my lovely tools here, my gorgeous tools, my Japanese tools. And there's one in particular that I like, which is this one. I'll just pop it on there so you can see. And what it means is it opens up, there's a little ring there, opens up the bottom of it. You can pop your, whatever it is that you want to use as your, to thread through something. It could be elastic, it could be a piece of webbing like this, it could be one you've already made yourself, a strap. Push that ring up and it locks it into place. So now I can just thread this through. It's a fancy bodkin, isn't it, really? What you want to do is try to keep your webbing flat. I mean, obviously you can pop it in and then flatten it afterwards. So it's probably easier as you're going to keep it flat. Sort of, and come out at the other end. So you come through one buttonhole, yeah? Let's just pull that. And then you're coming out there, flip it over, go in, come all the way along. As I say, try to keep it flat. So it's not, in other words, it's not twisted. Come out of the fourth buttonhole, and then I'm just going to release the ring, release the pressure on that, pop it away so I don't lose it. If I can find the address of where I got these from, the website, I'll pop it on the description. I'm not sure I'll be able to find it now, but they're called Kawaguchi. Perhaps that's the name of the company, I'm not sure. But I'll see if I can find a link for that. Okay. So there we are. So there is our webbing, beautifully put it through our buttonholes there. So all we need to do now is to join the two ends together, and you're just going to literally fold it over. You want it so your webbing is flat, so there's no twist to it and there's no pull on either side. So all you're going to do is just fold that over by about 1 inch, and then you can pop a pin in or a quilter's clip, anything you like to hold that together, and then you're just going to pull that out of the bag, because now we want to stitch that little square there. So if we bring in the machine and stitch it nice and strongly, so you're doing perhaps a couple of there's different ways you can do this. You could use a zigzag if you wanted to, or you could just go round a couple of times. You could do a cross hatch in the middle. There's lots of things you can do, but all you want to do really is to make sure that it's really secure, nice and strong, because that's going to take a lot of pulling and tugging. And what I tend to do is that I go forward and then my slow machine goes back and then I go forward again. Try and keep it straight. Mine has decided to twist a little. So back. It's the slowest machine in the entire world for going back, which is probably just as well. You don't want to go super fast, do you? And then down again, round. I'm just going to go back. Oh dear. It's like every machine, it has its little foibles. And then that last little bit, and I'll go back again. Why not? Okay, so that is now super strong. So if we look on the overhead again, you'll see that our lovely super strong piece of stitching is there. But obviously we don't want it there. We want to bring it to the middle of our bag, about here really. So I just want you to pull it around so you can feel it. It's about there now. So just straighten that all up. That's it. There we go. So I can feel it. It's about there. I mean, ideally it'd be in the middle, but that's fine like that. And that is your bag complete. Apart from stitching the turning gap, I will do that, I promise. So this is Francesca version 2, almost identical to version 1. It's because we've used a charm pack for Francesca and Fantasia, and you will be able to make, oh, isn't that just delicious? You will be able to make both projects. So you'll be able to make Fantasia, the cushion behind me here, and you will be able to make the bag as well, which is really cost effective. And if you've got a charm pack laying around that you don't know what to do with, this is the ideal couple of projects that you can create using it. Don't forget, you do need a charm pack of plain, or at least plain fabric, so you can cut into the charm pack size. So there we are. That is Francesca. I hope you enjoyed the demonstration. Give me a thumbs up if you did. And if you're looking at this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. We're steadily growing. We're nearly up to 40,000, which is incredible, really. Where are all those people come from? Anyway, I hope you enjoy. It's been lovely to share some time with you. I just think you're going to fall in love with Francesca and make loads.